we should thank the grace of heaven and the virtue of our masters and the compassion of our predecessors that I have this opportunity to be able to present this class on the preciousness of Dao. It will be, I'm going to not deviate, but I'm going to try to look at this preciousness of Dao from a very different perspective. Okay, very different. The reason why is because, first of all, you've all attended Dharma class, so you've seen it from that perspective. Okay, and the perspective that's presented in the Dharma class is very much like how we as people, humans, would look at it. Because how does it benefit us? In what sense does it help us? Okay, because because when you think about it, what do they talk about in the Dharma class? Preciousness of Dao. Think about it. Do you still remember any of the what? We talk about, okay, you could transcend life and death, for example. You could uplift people. You could avoid disasters and calamities, right? They talk about like the disasters that happen to people random, like the case of where the guy was walking and got hit by a car, right? Randomly. That's a very common. Also the tsunamis, remember? They talk about the mudslides in Taiwan, remember? And then, the earthquakes, etc. So, yeah, all those things are related to the preciousness of Dao. That is true. That is true. Now, that, of course, looks at it from the fact that, it has some benefit to us physically, okay? So, I like to, however, approach it from a different view, okay? I like to view it from the fact that why is there this question even of the preciousness of Dao in terms of just pure cultivation, not getting any benefits or anything necessarily. Okay, so of course one of the subjects brought up is when you talk about preciousness of Dao is you basically ask two questions: what is Dao? And why is it precious? Those are basically two questions in a Dharma class that we present. Most Dharma classes, well, at least the Chinese Dharma class, the Taiwan Dharma classes that I've heard, do introduce what is Dao first. Because after all, preciousness of Dao, what is Dao? Okay, so they talk about. We talk about it a little bit less in the U.S. here. We don't emphasize that much about the Dao. Yeah, we sort of like emphasize more the preciousness, so to speak, from our human standpoint. Okay, so I do, however, like to present it as first, what is Dao, and what's so precious about it. Okay, so when we talk about the Dao, of course, we talk about something that we can't even talk about, because after all, what as Lao Tzu says and all that, how can you speak of the Tao? Even Liu Jiangsi lecturer Liu in his lectures, Buddha Nature class, talks about the fact that, there is really no way to talk about the Tao, because the Tao that can be taught, the Ke Tao in his presentation, is the fact that it's a Tao that you can talk about. But the problem is that the Tao that you can talk about is nothing more than the manifestation of the true Tao, because you can't really talk about Tao. So I will also touch upon the Tao very lightly, in the sense that, how would you say, in many of his examples, I think I'll call examples in Lecturer Liu's classes, in the Buddha Nature class, he talks about how certain people, I'm very bad with Chinese names, but there was this monk that he mentioned a story about the fact that remember, the monk had a student, and then he wanted to test the student, so he says, before you were born, what was your condition? Huh? Zixuan was the monk or the abbot? Which one is it? The disciple? Okay, Zixuan, okay. Zixuan Hesang or something like that? Okay, yeah. But anyway, and of course the disciple, what did the disciple answer? He couldn't. He just gave answer of all the things that he learned he thought he so, and then the abbot or his teacher said, no, that's not it, that's not it. And then so the disciple replied saying, then you tell me what it is, right? And then the leaders and the teacher said what?
Master said,
Well, what I say is my thing. You have to say your thing, so to speak, right? And so the disciple says, he gave up, right? He gave up, right? Okay, and then he says, the Tao, I can't study anymore.
Because
he could
felt that his master wasn't going to
help him.
Anything.
Yeah, help him,
So
right?
he said, there's nothing. He can't learn anything more. He can't progress further.
Right.
So therefore,
Yeah,
he decided
he just decided to go back and make a living. Monastery. Monastery. Yeah, it's a temple, monastery, something like that, right? So he went back to his home or whatever, and then he decided to say, okay, I'm just gonna make a living, normal living. And what was he doing, right? One day he was hoeing, raking or hoeing, it doesn't matter, and he struck he struck a pebble, right? And the pebble, flew up, it got bounced off or because it got struck, bounced off the ground or whatever, and hit a bamboo pole. And then when it struck the bamboo, it made a sound, right? And it was then that Lecture Liu says, he became what? Well, he wu dao, right? You can call it awaken, okay, right? Yeah. So now, if you think about that carefully, okay, what was the state of mind? What made him wu dao? Why? How is it that he became, quote unquote, awakened? How? Okay. On the one hand, you can say, well, when he struck the pebble, right? The first thing that popped into his mind, so that you will try to think of what he was thinking. He wasn't thinking about the fact that, I gotta avoid the pebble. I don't want it to hit me. Okay, that's thinking. I struck a pebble. Oh man, my ground is full of pebbles. I need to, this field is not that good. So in other words, he wasn't even thinking of any of those things. He wasn't even thinking of, will I hear a sound when the pebble struck? So in a way, it's like, I don't know how would you say it, but sometimes it's like, using my example, the way I see it, like when I'm driving a car, okay, people say I like to drive, I like to drive because I've driven cross country so many times. People say, you must like to drive. Okay. Yeah, yes and no. Driving, yes, it's a task that you do, but it's tiring. But one of the things that I find about driving, and in a way why I like to drive, is in a way I am very, I guess you could say very calm when I drive. My heart is very still. I don't think, in fact, I don't even think of driving, even though I'm driving, physically driving, okay. I don't think. So my mind is very, I guess you could say, still when I drive. That's why, people who have driven with me, you don't hear me talk a lot when I drive or even move a lot. Sometimes I just sit like this. And I don't move for a period of time, even though, so on straight road. You can talk to Carrie, she knows. Okay. And I only, I guess you could say, make conversation whether if I really need to, keep any company that I have, from being bored to death, so to speak. Okay. So, but you'll notice that when I drive, especially when you talk, you'll know from when you talk to Carrie, that I don't, number one, say much. I don't listen to music necessarily. I just drive. That's it. And for me, it's a very, very calm experience. It's almost, honestly, to me, driving is almost like when I'm meditating, if I'm trying to meditate.
Zen-like state, that's all.
For me. And so that's why I find it very, very
Soothing.
I guess you could say soothing. I don't really feel I like it or not, but rather if I feel that, wow, it's just a state that seems very, like you say, soothing, peaceful, etc. Okay, so anyway. So, there's a book called I'll skip that. Okay, so the point I'm getting at is that, people tend to think the fact that, when he struck the pebble and he heard the sound, he said, hey, let's all do the same thing. Let's just go and meditate and hear the sound. Okay. Well, actually, Lecture Liu talks about another aspect. And what does he talk about a lot? 放下, right? This concept of letting go? Letting go. Well, let me ask you, what do you think that Fang Xia means? What Liu Jiangsi is trying to mean, or trying to say? What is your interpretation of his Fang Xia? To let go. Well, yeah, okay. But, okay, now, before I sort of like go to in depth more what he says Fang Xia, I want to talk about that monk's condition, okay? So, he heard that noise and he became awakened, okay? So, if you think about what that monk's experience was prior to that hearing that sound, it is not only just striking the pebble, but rather even before that when he was at the temple. So in other words, if we look at his condition, he grew up, he had a life, blah, blah, then he spent years and years in the monastery, I guess. We don't know how long, but he studied, right? He studied for a long time. So he accumulated a lot of knowledge, okay? And then he sort of like said, okay, I'm not going to learn anymore. I can't learn anymore, right? Because, he had that conversation with his disciple, his teacher, right? And so he went back to something mundane, like, making a living, like what we do. Okay, and during the time when he was probably doing his task, whatever, he probably wasn't really thinking of anything, like when I was driving, like when in the condition, like when I'm driving. He's just saying, okay, something gotta be done, I have to do it. Do the hoeing. Okay, and then that sound all of a sudden triggered him, awoke him somehow. And what is that? How is it that, or I guess you could say, what is that somehow? Okay. And that somehow is really very much like what Lecture Liu is talking about. He has learned all those things. He learned all those things. The teachings of Buddha, saints, blah, blah, blah. And essentially what he did, he Fang Xia. He let go. It is not to say when we say Fang Xia, it's to say, oh, I don't want to think about it, or I want to get rid of it. Rather, the fact that you have all this accumulation of studies, of learning, that learning still stays with you. Because it's not to say like, my interpretation of how he became awakened is the fact that when he was hoeing, he was thinking about, oh, okay, let's see, what did I learn from my teacher, etc. He wasn't thinking about all that. His mind, if you will, was very calm. Very calm. Okay. And I liken it to say that when he heard the pebble, it's like somebody dropped the pebble into his pond. Okay. And it stirred him. And that stirring was his awakening. Because he still needed what? Even though he wasn't thinking about it, he let it go. He still needed a foundation to become awakened. He needed that foundation. And that foundation was his studies, his learning. That's why in my conclusion I will talk about, how I go through it. But anyway, the point is that Dao, the Dao that we talk about, is not something that you can really learn. You cannot learn it. You can never learn it. You can never learn it. Now you may say, wow, that's harsh. Why am I studying? Why am I in this class? Why am I reading whatever? Reading, scriptures or what Buddha says. Because all those things, just like school, if this is what you study in school, it just lays the foundation. Okay, you need that foundation. First of all, most important, you need that foundation. Unless you happen to be the Buddha or something like that, who came down already with a foundation. But even then, I'll get to that later about, if he came to the world, why did he have to become a human? Okay, but anyway, you need a foundation. Doesn't matter what, you need some form of foundation. Okay, but once you have that foundation, you have to Fang Xia. Very contradictory. You learn all this stuff, and then you have to, quote unquote, like some people say, Fang Xia, let it go. It's really contradiction. Sounds like a contradiction. I have to learn all these things, then I have to not forget about it. Fang Xia is not to say forget about it, but you have to let it go. It's kind of contradiction.
It's basically letting it, not being attached to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Your conscious mind.
Right.
Okay, so because it's still there, it's inside.
It's still in your head. It's still in your head. Your learning is still there.
but it's
Yeah.
just not your conscious mind that has the.
Analyzing it or thinking about it. Okay, it's what was I gonna say? I don't know how many years ago when I was doing a lecture, I was talking to Johnny in class, and it was a lecture. I was talking about a movie I saw, kung fu movie I saw. Okay, the kung fu movie, and then the teacher was trying to teach a student because the student says, "Oh, I will represent this group to fight, the martial arts with another group." Okay, and the teacher says, "I've come up with a new form of martial arts, kung fu, and it's called Tai Chi Chuan." Okay, well, that's the story of the movie, and then so he said, then the student says, "Well, what is it? Teach me." Okay, and there's many other disciples, they're eager to teach him. So the master, performed the, whatever he has to do, right, to teach the guy. And then at the end of his performance, the teacher asked the student, okay, how is it? In other words, what have you learned? And all the student was saying, I've forgotten half of what you taught me already. Okay, I've forgotten half what you taught me. And then, so all the other disciples around the student said, beseech the teacher, say, do it once more. He's forgotten half of it. Okay, and so the teacher did it again. Performed his martial arts. And then, when he finished, he asked the student, okay, do you think you're ready to fight the other guy, to fight the opponent? And the student reply was saying, yeah, I think I'm ready because I've forgotten all of it already. I've forgotten all of it already. Okay, and all this, the guy was like, what's going on? You can't fight the other guy without forgetting what you've learned. Okay. What this analogy is like the function. You need that foundation to learn first, and then you let it go. Just like I was talking to Johnny. He does martial arts, right? Johnny, he's a karate expert or something like that. Karate, jujitsu. No, aikido. Oh, it's aikido. Well, anyway, there's many different branches.
No, it's called Aikido.
Okay, it's aikido. Okay, fine. I don't know whatever name. And yeah, He Chi. Okay, anyway. So the point I was telling him was saying, when you teach a student, right, and you want to know how well the student really learns, okay, I said, you teach him until the point that he no longer, when I say he no longer remembers what you teach, is to mean that what he has learned becomes innate. Innate means
It's internalized.
Internalized.
It's like it becomes second nature.
exactly.
One.
One, you become one. In other words, when you're fighting an opponent, right? After you learn something and you're going to fight an opponent, you don't think about what you've learned. It becomes second nature.
Automatic.
It's like automatic, and that is truly when a student has mastered your teaching.
That's the highest level.
That's the highest level, right? So in the same
It's
way,
like you don't need to think about
yeah,
it.
you no longer just
Or
like
analyze.
yeah, just like for example, you're driving. Today we still analyze it. Okay, I get to be careful of the red light and all that, but pretty much what?
It's like
automatic. It's pretty
automatic.
It's pretty much
It's like your
automatic.
second nature. It's like
Right.
your nature. You're at one.
Right,
You're at
and that
one.
is truly when you have
That's
learned
oneness.
something.
That's what it means.
That's an express manifestation
That's
of
Zen.
when yeah, it is Zen, right? Okay, so that is truly when you have reached the highest level of what you've learned, or the highest point of what you've learned.
Yeah, it's at the level where you can't express it.
Yeah,
You can't even
it's almost
explain
like
it.
you can't explain.
You can't explain it.
So,
You know,
in a way, that's why
Yeah,
the
it's
Tao
kinda weird.
is like that. Because what did the Buddha say to his disciple? He goes,
Buddha, did 39 years of teaching. He taught his disciple.
it's just teaching, but he never spoke about the Tao. Because it takes, unfortunately, it requires that disciple be awakened to,
Well, the teaching is just a guide. It's like
yes,
pointing
yes.
to the moon.
That's,
It's like
yeah,
pointing to the moon.
that's why,
He can't describe the moon.
Right.
But he can describe, this is how you could understand.
right.
Understand or,
That's why,
Yeah, one.
when we talk about like, we
So
say,
that's all the Dharma.
right. So that's why when we talk about like enlightenment and all that stuff, sometimes I hear the word, I go, yeah, okay, you want to use that term, fine. Because for me, really, there is no destination. There's only a direction. When you study something you want to achieve, like the Tao and all that, there's only a direction. But there's no destination saying, oh, I'm at a level of enlightenment. The fact that you're saying that there's a level of enlightenment implies what? There's a limit. In truth, there is none. Okay, it's totally open. That's why, when I myself always try to tell myself, I go, it's not enlightenment you're going after. No, your goal is not enlightenment. We use the label enlightenment to try to sort of like point to a direction, really. It's not a destination. Enlightenment is not a destination because there is no destination. There is only a direction that you go. Okay, so that's why, like Kai mentioned, that you're only pointing at something. It's the direction that's important. Okay, that's why sometimes Buddha says, it's the journey that's important, not the destination. But mine is more like there really is no destination. You're just going that journey because Buddhism talks about the many levels of Buddhahood or whatever. How many levels are there? Tons, right, Kai? Okay, you have Arhat, you have whatever, you have Bodhisattvas, you have Buddhas, etc. Okay, but those things, it's not to say that they're not real. No, they are. It's just the fact that they are conveniences for us so that it helps us try to understand. Because we don't have the full understanding, because our human mind cannot really absorb that much, in my opinion. But the point is that we have only a certain limit or level to our understanding. So there's even more beyond what we can understand, right? Even the Buddhist tells us that. So that's why to come up with things like, I hate to say this, but like heaven, hell, yes, those things exist, can exist. Okay, but those are in a way conveniences to help us trigger for an awakening. Okay, now the reason why I say that is this. Okay, when we're humans, right? And besides the preciousness of Dao, you have other topics in the Dharma class, and all those things are what? If you think about it carefully, all those things are in a way to say, okay, well, we want to leave this. We want to leave this human realm, right? We want to leave this human. We want to go to heaven or whatever, right? Okay. Ask yourself, okay, because there's a line. In my opinion, the greatest line or the most important line, the only important line in the 4 books in the Great Learning, just the first sentence. Heaven has bestowed upon us this Buddha nature, or this nature they call it, not Buddha nature. They don't say Buddha nature. 天命之谓性.
That's doctrine.
Excuse me, doctrine, okay. And then, what? To be in accordance with this nature is what? Called the Tao. To be in accord, it means to follow, to be one with this nature it's called Tao. Okay. And then the practice, the actual manifestation, the actions or whatever of this Tao is called what? Instruction, religion, they call it, right? Okay. I mean, the exact word is Jiao, but Jiao means religion, yeah, but it also means teaching, instruction, blah, blah. Okay.
That's what religion is.
Yeah, that's what religion, and that's what this is right now. When I'm speaking, that's Jiao. Okay. Okay. So that line, in my opinion, literally embodies the whole 4 books, okay? Because we talk about ourselves, how we should work hard and Shingon and to do merit to what? To go to heaven and all that stuff, to leave the suffering. And Buddha says what? Human life is suffering, right? Okay. It's a suffering because of what? It's a suffering because we are not in accordance with the Tao. And the nature, a Buddha nature. Because after all, and if you think about it carefully, if you are in accordance with your Buddha nature, right? If you are really in accord with this nature, doesn't matter what condition you are in. Does it really matter? It's irrelevant. There isn't. It's irrelevant. Whether you are in hell, physically, or whatever, in this human world, or in this heaven, it's all the same when you are really in accordance with your true nature. Because when you're in accordance with true nature, what? Are you influenced by your environment? Are you? No, right? So if your environment changes, does it matter? No. Okay, so that's why, to a certain extent, when I I hear the topic, the true meaning of life, right? True, they talk about wanting to merit. I'm deviating from Preciousness of Dao, but these two are related. Preciousness of Dao and true meaning of life is kind of related. I hear the fact that, we need to Xingong leader, we need to cultivate, whatever, so that we can lead this human realm, etc. In my opinion, really, the true meaning of life is nothing more than being in accordance with the Tao. That's all, nothing more. Because when you are in accordance with the Tao, any environment that you're in is the same. Any environment you're in is the same. So that's why. Anyway, I'm a little bit deviating because I'm talking about true meaning of life. But the Tao is essentially something that you cannot learn. Okay, but you need the foundation to be able to be awakened to the Tao. You need a form of foundation. Okay, and that foundation is the learning. Unfortunately, you still need to learn. You have no choice. Okay, I mean, to say that, okay, hey, you want to become awakened, or you just sit there and meditate, don't do anything. You probably won't. I mean, no, I shouldn't say that. You probably may achieve awakening, but it will probably take you a long, long time. If you, however, go to a temple, go to a library, and study hard, study it, you also can achieve awakening. And it may be a little bit faster than that, if both being equal. Okay, now why do I say both being equal? And that equal, what I say that it relates to us today. Buddhism has a term that says, has a saying that says, you can achieve enlightenment in what? An instant, or what? Or what? Yeah, actually, thousands of lifetime. Okay, they say 8,000, but it just means a long time, right? So you can achieve enlightenment in an instant or in a very long time. Now, Buddhism also has another view. Okay, Buddhism, well, how I interpret it was the fact that each of us are at different levels of that time, from instant to long. Okay, each of us are along that period. Let's just use a simple example. Let's say it takes 100 lifetimes to achieve Tao. Okay, starting from zero. Okay, for those that cannot become instant. Okay, in reality, there is really no instant. Okay, because of the fact that what we consider a person in this lifetime achieving instant just means the fact that, hey, he's at the end of that 100-year lifetime. It's already his 100th lifetime. Remember the story of what Lecture Liu talks about? He says this abbot has a monk. Has a little disciple. What do they call those disciples? Yeah. Well, yeah. Sami. I think Sami. They call it Sami. I don't know what that really means, but anyway. So, and he says, hey, look, I'm going to go on a trip. Don't look at this book. Remember the book? Yeah. And that was what? 金刚经 I don't know. It was 金刚. I think it was 金刚经, right? And then so he left, and then the guy go. He just had. I guess human nature. That's his human nature. And he looked, and out popped a genie, we call it. An angel, genie, and then he was able to perform, granting some wishes and all that stuff. And then the Hozang, the abbot came back, and then what? And what happened? What was the result? That the abbot asked the genie, when he, appeared, like, why is it that I read it for 40 years and you never appear? And he's just a Sami. A little whatever. Novice. And the genie answered what? That
you're attached.
No, it isn't attached. No.
That
No.
he has the,
Oh,
on the
that's true, that's
surface,
true.
he.
On the
Right.
surface, you only have 40 years,
That's
but
right.
him had 40
Lifetime.
lifetimes.
Lifetime. Yeah, previous lifetime.
Right?
He
So-
already cultivated.
Right, he called it. So that's
So
why,
he already had the foundation.
right, exactly. So that's why each of us are on different parts of different time of our journey.
Or that,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's why for some people who receive the Tao today, we introduce the guy to the Tao, receive the Tao and all that, and then we encourage him to cultivate and all that stuff, and we see that he doesn't or he or she doesn't really sort of like care, and because in a way they are at the beginning of that journey. And then for some of us, when we introduce people to, oh man, that's gung ho. Oh, you want me to be vegetarian? I'll be vegetarian today, starting today.
Well, at least they have good foundation.
Right,
People
because
don't
they
not
are
ready.
already what? Have a good foundation. Already have travel. Because that person may have cultivated already so many different lives, right? Because what do we say? Oh, to receive the Tao, you have to have cultivated what?
3 lives.
3 lifetimes already, right? And then to attend the Dharma class, what? 5, right? So we added 2 more. Okay, so the point is that each of us are at different points of our journey. Okay, for some, yeah, we will see that they are very quickly improving very fast. That's true. For some, we will see that, it's going to take time. It's going to take time. Okay, so that's why, in a way, we shouldn't really be discouraged by, those people who are very slow, and be very happy or whatever necessarily that we only emphasize the people who are improving very fast. We should not, because all are equal. Okay, so that's the concept of where De actually comes from. Okay, so basically, to end this aspect of the Tao is the fact that it is something you cannot learn, but you need a foundation to be awakened to that Tao. So it is very, very important, no matter what, still to learn. You have to learn. You still have to learn because it's trying to build your foundation. And when your foundation has reached a certain level, a certain trigger, like the case of that pebble hitting the bamboo, it's a trigger. It triggers what? Something that you already have to erupt. That's why I like to say, your mind is perfectly still, like a pond of water, no waves. And then somebody throws a pebble in it, boom, you awaken. Okay, so that's why it's important to learn. Okay, now that trigger may not be necessarily just a pebble, whatever. It could be a trigger in what you're doing, even in an action that you're taking. It doesn't have to be hoeing or whatever. It could be anything. It could be anything. Okay, so that's why at the end I'll tell you how the way I see it. Okay, but now that we have a little understanding of the Tao, we talk about why is it precious. Okay, and again, if you use the standard narrative, it's yes, it benefits us. We can avoid sickness. I can be healthy and all that stuff. Okay, but let me ask you, when life is very smooth, going very nicely, okay, we have more opportunities to do certain things. Okay, and during that time, when we talk about Preciousness of Dao, we say, you have the time, because you can't cultivate when you're lying in a sick bed, for example, in a hospital bed. That's what we say, even though I think that you really still can cultivate. But anyway, we tend to say those things, okay, that you can't do things. You can't xingong, do merits and all that stuff, right? Okay. Well, there's another thing a hang up I have with merits. But anyway, that's different. So the point is that when our lives go from one extreme to the other, you're very happy or whatever, to when you're really like in a difficult situation. Okay. On the one hand, people like to say that, when you're in difficulty and all that, that's when you begin to learn, you begin to understand more about the preciousness of Tao, right? And then when you're having good times and all that stuff, you tend to not, not only, you tend to forget the preciousness of Tao, right? Okay. And that's because we look at it from our human nature aspect. That's true. Okay. Because when we talk about the prescience of Tao as a cultivator, okay, as cultivators, we need to really ask ourselves, okay, what do I really find precious? What do I mean by precious? Because preciousness tends to connote value, evaluation. We do evaluation, meaning that we tend to compare, like comparing prices. Okay, we go to supermarket and we compare prices. Oh, okay, this has greater value because it's cheaper and has more quantity versus something that's less quantity, more expensive, or even the same price. So we do a value judgment. Okay, and when we try to do a value judgment, when we talk about the Tao, it becomes very, in my opinion, very not useful, not as useful. Okay, because when we truly want to talk about preciousness of Tao, the preciousness aspect, we have to look at ourselves to see, okay, at any given moment in my life, because we're only talking about one lifespan in human life, at any given moment, okay, what is the Tao to me? What you have to ask the question, what is the Tao to me at any given moment in your life? No, I mean I don't mean that, oh, every second I'm thinking about what it is. No. But at any given time in your life, you have to ask the question, what is the Tao to me? Okay. Because we're human, we tend to look at it in human terms. Yes, it can help me avoid disasters. Because the Shenfu represents the Tao, so therefore, if I'm sick, I can ask Shenfu for good health, whatever, right? Or I need a job, so I can ask the Shenfu to help me get a job. Or I have a son who, or children who wants to go to medical school but hasn't been able to, and I pray for help to, them to achieve certain goals. Okay, but those are all what? Human goals, right? They're all human, very human. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that in the sense that because you're trying to improve yourself or improve others, and in the hope, quote unquote, hope that what? You will cultivate better or even more. Now, what happens when you don't do that? Then, okay, you still get the favor from the saints and Buddhas, but for this moment, but then in the future, maybe not. Because the saints and Buddhas say, well, I've helped you, but you haven't really improved. Okay? So anyway, the point is that what I'm saying is that all those things, those human, human ambitions or whatever, okay, those are very short term, okay, and also very, what we call 有生有灭, have, 有生有灭, what's a good way to say it in Chinese, English? You don't want to say the literal.
Have a
Beginning
Has
and
a
end.
beginning.
Yeah, has a beginning and end, right, has a beginning and end, has a beginning. Okay, we'll just call it has a beginning and end because,
or has limitations.
yeah, it has limitations, right. Because I don't want to say many things because for the new people, I don't want them to be discouraged. Okay, because it's true that we don't try to say discouraging things. But on the one hand, it's important to understand the facts or to understand the foundation. Because it's true that we say when we receive the Tao, we're automatically what? We can automatically 超生 or transcend life and death, right? And that transcendence will be for, there's a certain time limit. Even the Buddha said that. No, they say even if you do,
That's the guarantee.
no, you're guaranteed at least. You're just at least that.
At least 10,000.
Meaning that let's say you receive the Tao, but you completely don't follow it. You just still live your life the way it is. You still eat. You're not a vegetarian, whatever. You don't improve or anything like that. Then, yes, you are still guaranteed. You don't change your bad habit. You don't change your what we say 毛病脾气, right? You're still guaranteed,
Well, 10,800.
right? Guaranteed. Okay.
I mean,
They say that's the minimum. Okay.
I don't know.
But then what happens after that? What happens after that?
Only heaven knows.
Well, yeah, but we say what?
Just have to come
We say you have to still reincarnate, but So in other words, you no longer so your 超生了死 transcendence is only for time limit, a period of time. Just like Very much like what we talk about when we talk about temporal heaven saints. What do we say about them? That
They still have to reincarnate.
reincarnate, but they still get a period of time.
Yeah.
You know, they can.
Depends on their merit.
Right. So, and when they become temporal heaven saints, right? Because they now receive the Tao and they didn't, necessarily improve their character, whatever. They sometimes will still have their Mao Bing Pi Chi with them and all that stuff, right? All the human characteristics that they've developed still goes with them, right? Okay, and so therefore, that's why in the Tao, when we say we cultivate, we try to change that, because let's assume you don't change that, and you go up there, you will still have your Mao Bing Pi Chi, blah blah blah.
They say we can cultivate our thing.
Yeah, you can go. Yeah, okay. So
It's
to a certain
cultivation
extent,
department.
yeah, I believe that there's certain aspect that you can still cultivate. That's true. I believe that. Okay, so but if you think about that, let's say we can cultivate, right? Let's just say that. Okay, so we got rid of half our Mao Bing Pi Chi, and we still have half, and it's time to go, so we go to heaven, right? And then we say, hey, we can still cultivate, right? So you begin to cultivate over there, right? So tell me, what's the difference between cultivating there and here? You say, oh, okay, because here we have problems of disasters, we have problems of disease, we have cold.
You
You-
have refinement.
Yeah.
Or crucible. Crucible.
Right, crucible.
Crucible test.
Yeah,
Say test.
right. But we have tests here too, let's say.
no,
people
no,
but
people
it's
come.
mostly-
Yeah.
There's tests out there
Yeah,
too.
yeah, we have it both.
But
Okay,
Yeah.
so the point that I'm getting at is this: when you look at it from the grand scheme of things, is there much different? Oh yeah, okay, maybe the conditions are better up there. You don't.
we have forms here.
Yeah.
They don't have forms.
Yeah, they don't have forms. But the point is, yeah, okay, sure,
And
differentiate.
also the time, the year is
Right.
different.
Well,
Different, right?
Over
It's,
here.
yeah, versus up there, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when you compare the two, is there really much difference between cultivating here and there? So, there is. You could say to a certain extent there's some subtle differences. I agree with that. Okay, but if you think about it, our Mao Bing Pi Chi, right? Our 品格, our character, who we are. How did it come about? At what place did it come about? It didn't come about when we were in heaven. When we are still in this realm of physical and chi, okay, physical and spiritual. So therefore, it is much easier to remove it when we are still in this chi. Okay, it's harder when you're, like Kai says, there's form and no form. Okay, if for example we 执着 form, I like pretty ladies. Well, when I go up there, there's no form. So how do I get rid of the desire for pretty ladies? It's harder because there's no form to let me have this desire. But we're here, I see it, but I can get rid of it, let's say, right? And so therefore, it's easier here. That's why people say, oh, when you go up there, it's more effective here to be. Okay, so anyway, time is short, they said. They gave me 3 minutes. But is this supposed to be 2 hours or just one?
1 and 1 hour. You can take the 2 hours.
Well, is there anybody else supposed to do the class afterwards? Oh, okay, so I'll finish it. Okay, I'll finish it. So the point I'm getting at is this. First of all, the main point is this. Tao is something you cannot learn. Okay, that is true. You can only be awakened to the Tao, but you yourself. So therefore, when you hear all these teachings and all that, it is true that they are not talking to you about the Tao. They're talking about the principles of the Tao, the manifestations of the Tao. And it is up to you to determine whether you truly understand it or not. In terms of preciousness, yeah, you can try to think of it in human terms. There's nothing wrong with that. But you also need to think of that fact that the true preciousness comes from what? That you can truly achieve a point of 率性, being in accordance with the Tao. Because if you think of prescience as saying, okay, I want to become a bodhisattva, I want to become a Buddha, I want to become some form of saint or whatever. That means that what? You still have an attachment, a form of attachment. Okay, so the true preciousness of Tao is not the fact that, it is true that part of it is the fact that it can help you physically. But the true aspect of it, in my opinion, in my view, is the fact that it allows you to have what? A direction to go, and really there's no destination. It's just a direction. Because we say, okay, our highest level is a Buddha, right? Our higher level of Buddha. Okay. Buddha, when they manifest themselves, has what? A form. Okay. When I say form, it's not mean physical form. We call a Buddha such and such name. We call another Buddha such and such name. But in truth, in the Li Tian, there is no identity. Is there identity in Li Tian? Think about it. Is there someone I can say, oh, God, or someone I can say, Qigong, or someone I can say, whatever? No.
Those are the Manichaeas.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
not some of the.
Right. So, so
Manifestation.
yeah, they are just manifestations, right? So, in my opinion, the Preciousness of Dao is really nothing more than the fact that you have a potential or a direction in which you can cultivate, and you can cultivate, and that preciousness is the fact that you now realize, you have a realization that there is something more than what is physical or even what is spiritual. Okay, so I guess I haven't really defined the preciousness too well, that well, about the Tao, but it is a way, a method, a way for us, or a direction for us to try to become awakened to the Tao. Okay, so anyway, I like to say, okay, last thing is this. In the cultivation, okay, I really have only 4 steps, so to speak. Okay, it's 4 steps: learning, contemplation, practice, and reflection. That's all I use. Okay, and then what comes after reflection? Learning again, contemplation, practice, and reflection, and it's a cycle. I go through that cycle, so to speak. You learn, you have to try to understand, contemplate what you've learned. But you also have to put that into practice. That's why in Chinese it's very marvelous when they say xiu xing. Xiu xing means what? We say cultivation, right? Cultivation. But it's xiu part and a xing part. Okay, xing we know is what? Action, right? Action. Xiu is to, literally by itself means cultivate, but it means to study, whatever, right? So, and then once you put it into practice, you have to reflect upon that, what you have contemplated and what you have practiced. You reflect on it. And then after you've done that, you have to go back and learn some more. So it's a eternal cycle you just go through. Okay, and what makes, in a way, really a representation of a cultivator is we need to have determination, effort, and persistence. Persistence means the fact that you can keep going regardless of what's happening around you.
Jing-jing.
Yeah, jing-jing. That's why I talk about the
Vigorous
extremes.
progress.
You know, you have very
Vigor.
easy life versus very difficult life. Regardless of that, you still need to have persistence. So anyway, that basically, I mean, I'm sure that I've not really covered everything that I like to say, at the same time not have explained everything that I've said well necessarily. So if I should have said anything incorrect, I would like to ask the Buddhists for forgiveness, and also the Chen to basically recommend or or suggest. Well, I like to leave, for some questions, but we may not have time. So I'll end this topic here. Thank you very much.